Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's product demo, Mastering Constructive Criticism for Effective Feedback, hosted by HRDQ-U and presented by Devin C. Hughes. So, my name is Sarah, and I will moderate today's product demo. Our time together will last around 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You can expect today. If you have any questions or comments, please type them into the questions box. We will be using this questions box throughout our session today. So if you could locate that, give me a hello, where are you coming from? Just get comfortable with using that box for me. And you can also download today's handouts under the handouts tab on your control panel as well. And I'd like to welcome today's presenter, Devin C. Hughes. Devin is an award-winning speaker, best-selling author, and internationally recognized expert in the science of happiness, organizational culture change, and leadership development. He has lectured and worked with a variety of Fortune 100 companies, as well as the Secret Service, the IRS, and an assortment of profit and nonprofit organizations. Devin is the author of 20 books and has lectured in more than 15 countries. He lives in San Diego, California, with his wife, 4 daughters, and rescue dog. Devin, thanks so much for joining us here today to talk about constructive criticism.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. Delighted to be here. And I am so excited. If it's okay with you, I want to jump right in. So let's go. Who should take this course? Well, I'm assuming that probably kind of sort of that you're here today because maybe you're thinking that maybe you're the kind of person that could take this course. Well, let me unpack it for you. Any professional who gives or potentially receives feedback is an opportunity for growth and important improvement. It's ideal for managers, team leaders, supervisors, HR professionals, mentors, coaches, you name it. Essentially, folks, for anybody at any level, again, who gives and receives feedback. So that's the frame for the course and who it's for. We're going to dive right into that. But I'm curious, that said, in the questions box, what role are you in your organization? Do you mind sharing here quickly? I'd love to hear who's who. Who's here today?
And again, you can type that into the questions box. What role is in your organization? Let's see. We have project manager, human resource manager, the owner of a consulting firm, customer service supervisor, human resources, program administrator, supervisor of instructional design. Some more human resources coming through. That's a little overview of who we have joining us today.
Got it. Well, welcome again. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Your time is precious, and I want to make the most of it. So let's talk about the product. A little bit of an overview, some of the course objectives, and why this course will help you and others. Specifically, give you the best approach for giving and receiving constructive criticism, i.e., feedback. Understand the 4 common reactions to feedback and determine which one resonates with you. And again, it's not a surprise. There are reactions to feedback, positive and sometimes negative. Some practical strategies on how to provide better feedback, different styles, different approaches. We'll talk a little bit about that. Additionally, we will cover some ways to manage and reduce negative reactions to feedback. How many of us have ever given feedback? Well-intentioned, but the reaction we got from someone was not what we thought. And so we'll talk a little bit about that, which is natural. Some best practices for giving feedback in some of these complex situations, like when you have to give feedback to your boss. Could that be a little bit awkward? Yeah, it can be. Colleagues, customers, patients, students, parents, you kind of sort of name it. So, what is the definition of constructive criticism? I say constructive criticism. I say definition of it. You say what? Right now in the questions box. What do you think it is? Real quick, I'd love to get your interpretation of it. Let's make this very interactive. I don't want to lecture for the next 25 to 30 minutes. What's the definition of constructive criticism? What do you think?
And you can type that into the questions box here. Performance improvement, honest, tactful feedback on a different perspective, dialogue with positive intent to redirect one's behavior, providing feedback to help your employees grow, providing feedback in a positive manner to enact change, and feedback on your performance is some of the responses we're receiving.
Love this indeed. So I'm going to unpack a little bit of how I see the world, and it seems like it's very similar to yours. And you'll see the first nugget I have here, provide specific suggestions to support improvement. And that word, I don't use that loosely. Specific. Has anybody here ever gotten some feedback, some constructive criticism that wasn't very specific? I need you to do a better job. It doesn't really help me. It also tends to, when you do it well, offer a balanced evaluation, highlighting both strengths and areas for growth. You see, I didn't use the word weaknesses, areas for growth. Aims to foster personal and professional development. It's clear and direct. I like direct. If you make someone work too hard to figure out what you mean, it's harder to change behavior. And ideally, I have a strong bias towards action. Practical steps for improvement. Again, I got it. I heard it. Now, what do I do with it? Now, this is one of my mantras, and I'm going to say this. Information is rarely transformation. Let me say that again. Information is rarely transformation. There's a lot of information in the world, but that doesn't necessarily transform behavior. You got to be clear, direct, and actionable. So, what are some challenges, though? What are some of your biggest challenges with giving and or receiving feedback? Think about your career, right? Your first job to where you are now. What are some of the biggest challenges you have found? Current role, prior role, doesn't really matter. Some of your biggest challenges with giving and or receiving feedback. In the questions box, I'd love you to hear. What are some biggest challenges?
We have tone, outside issues affecting the conversation, dealing with a person who can't handle any type of feedback, fear of overreaction, being defensive, actually accepting the feedback, managers that are afraid to have difficult conversations. Those are some of the responses that we're receiving.
Managers that are afraid to have difficult conversations. How dare they, huh? We'll talk a little bit about that. Do they have to really be difficult? Well, I'm just going to share with you some of the biggest challenges with giving and receiving feedback that I have found based on my work and research. Fear of adverse reactions, balancing both positive and negative feedback, right? Managing emotions, not only yours, but again, trying to influence the emotional state when you're in that conversation. Sometimes cultural differences, right? Where we grow up, who we grew up with, our environment certainly affect our mindset in terms of feedback. Timing feedback effectively. Has anyone ever gotten feedback when it was not timed appropriately? Maybe it was a week later, 2 weeks later, maybe it was in the wrong context, maybe it was in the wrong venue. Again, timing certainly matters. And then handling defensiveness while staying honest and constructive. Sometimes we want to give honest feedback, but when we're giving it, we can see a little defensiveness and the armor goes up. So then we start to pivot and we start to soft sell it. So that said, let's jump in here to the product and the demo, which is why I'm super excited to be here with all of you today to help you in terms of giving better constructive feedback. So there's 4 key modules. Number 1, the ideal process. Yes, constructive criticism, there should be a process like anything else, giving and receiving. Number 2, what are some of the feedback reactions, both accepting it and rejecting it? Yeah, we need to know what they are and how to respond or pivot appropriately. Number 3, handling feedback. Some tips, tools, resources. I have a bias towards tips and tools. I get it intellectually, but help me operationalize it. That's a big one. And number 4, those special situations that I touched on just a little bit when you have to give it to a boss or someone you work with or someone else where the situation just feels a little bit different, awkward, uncomfortable. So those are the 4 modules in the product. And so we're going to just, again, I'm going to dance around a little bit and show you not only what they are, but again, how they might be beneficial to you within your organization. So I want to, for a second, walk down memory lane, right? Just walk down memory lane for a second. Think of a person from your past or maybe even present, work or personal life, who really kind of, sort of just gave great feedback. Can you think of a person? Now, what did that person do? What did they not do? And how did they make you feel? I'd love to just people weigh in, either one of these questions, all of the questions. I'm just looking for themes here and patterns. Have you ever had someone in your personal and professional life who gave you great feedback? What did they do or not do? And how did they make you feel during and after that experience? Anybody want to weigh in on that? I'd love to hear. This is really, really powerful.
You can type that into the questions box. Direct and honest. What else do we have? They let me talk, spoke from personal experience, and I felt seen. They gave specific examples. They listened, they did not judge, and I felt heard and appreciated. They were very transparent. They made me feel like I was a part of the conversation. These are some of the responses that we're receiving.
Yeah, no, I love that. Now, it's so funny because when I ask this question, people tend to self-reflect and sometimes they struggle. And I wonder, but if I asked the inverse of that question, have you ever been given feedback that wasn't so great and the experience just didn't go so well? People tend to have total recall for that. Well, let me tell you. So it's just interesting. I would imagine again as we go forward, there's been some common themes on those who gave great feedback. And so thank you for weighing in on that. And so, in terms of giving great feedback, so I'm going to just share with you a little bit of the research behind it. If you look at the latest research, based on what I have found and based on that research, you tend to need to give 3 positives to 1 negative. Yeah. Now, I'm not asking you to go around with with an Excel spreadsheet or a calculator and keep track of all the feedback you're given, but 3 positive to 1 negative. Why is that? I'll tell you, because the brain has a negativity bias. Negative news is like Velcro on the brain. And so to outweigh the negative, you need to give at least 3 positives to 1 negative, right? It's called the Lozada ratio. So here's a couple example of how you might operationalize that. But celebrating small wins. It's a big one. If I asked you for your biggest win this week, if I asked you for your team's biggest wins this week, do you know it? Do you talk about it? Do you socialize it? That's an easy one. Practice gratitude. Right? I saw some research by Cal Berkeley that 60% of people at work right now never, ever practice gratitude with the folks they work with. Gratitude with your teams individually. And then focus on positive relationships. What could you do to build better relationships? So think about it. Right now, if you looked at your ratio right now in terms of feedback, are you giving more positive or negative? And what's the ratio? And or what's the ratio in the feedback you're receiving? Is it mostly positive or negative? Is there an opportunity here to flip the script? This is really, really powerful. You want to change behavior. So let's talk about gratitude for a second. Well, we're going to have a little practice because I don't want to lecture here for the next 20 minutes or so. I know everybody's got a phone. You don't leave the house without it. I want everybody right now to grab your phone. Maybe you already have it. I want you to think about someone at work right now that you're really grateful for, but maybe kind of sort of you don't tell them enough. Now, I got to imagine there's at least one person at work that you're really, really grateful for, but for whatever reason, you just don't tell them enough. And if it's okay with you, Sarah, I'm going to give them 1 minute approximately for everyone here to grab their phone and send that human being a text and or email and let them know how grateful they are. We're going to operationalize the Lozada ratio right now and let some humans know how grateful you are for them. Let's do it right now. You got 1 minute?
Sounds good.
Folks, don't feel the need to wordsmith it. Just be authentic with you and just let another human being know how grateful you are. I think you might be pleasantly surprised at the response. Now,
And while folks are doing that, we did have a question. What was the name of the 3-to-1 model? Can you share that off again?
yeah, I'll actually go. There it is. Yeah, Lozado ratio, 3-to-1, 3 positives to 1 negative. So if some of you get a response back like this, is everything okay? Because we tend not to go to that place unless something is wrong. I'm asking you to be intentionally. I'll give you an example and I'll speak from my heart. I wake up every single day. I take 2 minutes a day and I think about human beings in my life, personally and professionally, that matter, and I let them know. I'm going to share and give people the gratitude and operationalize the Lozado ratio. So, well, thank you for doing that. I think you may be pleasantly surprised, and that's an easy one to walk out here with. So, what are some benefits and outcomes of the product, right? Well, I don't know. I keep hearing that feedback is a gift. I think probably we all kind of sort of heard that in certain context. Is feedback a gift? Right? Is it? Well, I think I'll put it in context. It depends who's giving it, what's being said, how it's being delivered, what's my relationship with the person. Not every gift that I've ever gotten is one that I wanted to receive. Gift implies that I'm excited to give it. So let's assume that it's relatively good. Now, what are the benefits of feedback? I think they're probably pretty obvious, maybe, kind of, sort of. But what do you think? I'd love to hear from you. What do you think the biggest benefits of constructive feedback delivered right with tone, context, whatever? What do you think the biggest benefits from your experience of feedback? I'd love to hear in the questions box.
Improvement, gives direction, trust, realization of concerns, better communication, sets expectations, open communication, trust, growth, progress. These are some of the responses we're receiving.
Love it. Love it all. So some benefits of feedback. And folks, you've nailed it, right? Develop self-awareness. Now, we all have blind spots. That include yours truly. The way we see ourselves versus how other people see us. Personal growth, increase performance, build trust, self-esteem, make better decisions, improve relationships. All of the above. So I think intellectually we get it. Absolutely, it's critical for personal and organizational growth to be able to operationalize this. And finally, improve learning, right? So when we think about things that help human beings get in a better place, all of the above from feedback. The challenge is 65% of employees desire more feedback. So when I heard earlier in this discussion here, in this presentation, that my managers are reticent to give or have difficult conversations, we have a problem because 65% of employees desire more feedback. Is this a challenge right now in the new normal? It can be. It has been a challenge for a while, but in remote and hybrid environments, it's even more challenging, I might say, exacerbated, because you don't see the person always or see them as much, and you may never see them. So I found this really fascinating. But have you ever been given feedback that missed the mark? I'm curious. Have you ever been given feedback by someone that just totally missed the mark? Yes, no. I'd love it in the questions tab if you would. What do you think? Yes, no? Have you ever been given feedback that just totally missed the mark? Didn't land well, was off-putting, emotionally out of context? What do you think? Yes, no?
We have yes. Most people are saying yes. We do have a no in here, and sometimes we have. I thought
Okay.
someone said I thought it missed the mark, but I was blinded. But overwhelmingly, everyone is saying yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because again, there's no judgment on that. Certainly in my career, I've had a couple times where just totally like, I kind of gave them a look, like when a dog looks at their owner, Sarah, like kind of sideways, like, huh? That look. So, how about when informal feedback isn't working? Right? How about when it's not working? Let's just say, for an example, and I'll read this: an employee does not turn in reports on time and does not spell check or edit them. You spoke with him at his desk and reminded him to finish work on time and turn in reports after he's reviewed them for errors. However, the behavior continues. How about a new coworker in the early 20s wears inappropriate clothes to the office? Or, you've talked to them on several occasions, but the employee continues wearing them to work. Is this awkward? How about you continue to talk and then continue the behavior happens? Does this happen at work? Does this happen on Teams? Where kind of sort of what you think you're communicating is not being heard? Yeah, I think we've all been there. And so this is one of the reasons why this product is so powerful in terms of formal and informal feedback. So how do we apply it? Well, here's some examples of poor feedback versus quality feedback. So don't use, you did great. Doesn't really help me that much versus I really appreciated how you handled the specific task or project. Your attention to detail and creativity really made a difference. And you can see here the do versus the don't. And again, when we're talking about transforming behaviors and equipping managers and teams with the language on how to use it and, and the clarity around giving better feedback, this is just an example what's provided in the product. The negative sandwich. I think the sandwich has been around since I started my career 20, 30 years ago. How about the negative sandwich? Your report was good, but the formatting could be better and some sections needed more detail. Versus, I found your report to be thorough and well researched. Your analysis was insightful. To enhance it further, language is so vitally important on this. And again, these are just some examples of what you don't do versus what you should do. And again, this training product gives you an opportunity to unpack that. And so the formula for giving quality feedback. And again, you can see here praise, constructive, actionable, sprinkle in some recognition and some encouragement. And again, the language here is so vitally important. I love this. I really enjoyed your presentation today. The way you structured your argument was very clear and interesting. Well, who doesn't want to hear that, right? This report could have benefited from some additional data to support your conclusions. Perhaps you should consider using ... It's actionable. And again, this formula is really, really important because I would argue when we look at constructive criticism or feedback, in a lot of cases, it's more science and less art. And I find a lot of managers that I work with just kind of sort of make it up on the fly or do what they've always done or deliver feedback like they were given feedback to them early in their career. So I want you to adjust this feedback for a second. You don't take our team meetings seriously because you're always late. Now, you don't have to do it. What do you think about that? You don't take our team meetings seriously because you're always late versus when you're late to our team meetings, we don't get through the agenda. And as a result, we're behind on our Q2 deadlines. Does everybody see the difference there? Is there a difference there? I think so. I think the language matters. You're not a strategic thinker. Wow. How do you think that landed? You're not a strategic thinker. Versus in our last meeting, you spent 20 minutes discussing one element of the design when we were there to discuss the 3-month plan of the design rollout. Does everybody see the nuance there in terms of giving constructive feedback? And again, these are vignettes and narratives and tools that we learn with the product to help people equip to give her better feedback. So customization and delivery options. Well, the good thing is it's customizable, ready to use, and flexible. Right? Whether you're in person, virtual, hybrid, ready to go. Maybe you want to deliver. You have a facilitator guide, participant handouts, activities. Acceptable, again, to reiterate, all audiences, time constraints, learning styles, you name it. It's ready to go, which is really, really powerful. It's actionable, engaging, and very efficient. And you can do a half day, full day. You can take out modules, there's role plays, there's discussion and reflection. I love this so much, and I'm just going to weigh in here because I love the vignettes and the role plays. I think adults, learners, especially at work, learn by doing. And what we do here with this product is we give you a learning point, and then we slide right into the vignette or some kind of learning modality, so we have to apply it. And then we socialize it. How would we apply it? What did you learn? And then we see how we can take that back to work. So let's give you an example. How about this? Joseph noticed that Susan frequently arrives late to their weekly meetings. While she contributes to discussions and comes prepared, her tardiness disrupts coworkers and presentations. Is this a problem? Do you think Susan's worthy of some feedback? To address this issue, Joseph sent a reminder, emailed Susan before the meeting, emphasizing the importance of punctuality. Had a follow-up discussion. After she was late again, he called her into his office to discuss the issue. What do you think? Is that appropriate? It's acting or operationalizing it, helping Susan be a better version of herself. So Susan had excuses such as car trouble, broken alarms, flat tires, you kind of sort of name it. The behavior continued. So what do? Well, the ultimate goal is to improve employee performance, right? Well, if you look at it, and I just use the example of Susan, companies with greater feedback have lower turnover rates. Employees who receive frequent constructive feedback are 6 times more engaged. And if you look at the Gallup data right now, we're in the age of employee disengagement. In terms of productivity and collaboration, 69% of employees say they would work harder if their efforts were recognized, appreciated. Organizations that prioritize feedback see a 12% boost in team performance. That's from Gartner. In terms of workplace culture and retention, 92% of employees say constructive feedback improves performance. Folks, the data is really, really clear on this. Feedback is not a nice to have right now. It is a must have in terms of workplace culture. In terms of leadership to growth in culture, 74% of employees are more effective when they get specific feedback. Performance improves, engagement, every outcome that I can measure within an organization right now improves if you have a culture of feedback. Yes. So how do we operationalize it? Well, one, this is why we're here today with this tool, to equip your managers, teams, colleagues, HR professionals with a tool and resource to train it, operationalize it, and spread it, and continue to normalize it within a workplace culture. Well, what's included with your purchase? Well, you get a workshop facilitator guide. This is really, really big. It's in plain spoken English. Gives you an opportunity. Again, it's structured, it's tools, it's activities, it's role plays, it's step-by-step instructions to clearly get you up to speed on delivering this training or help others get up to training too. I love it. And/or it anticipates certain resistance, engagement challenges that you might have. Yes, there's a little bit of passive resistance to feedback sometimes, and we get that. Well, we anticipate that, and we give you scenarios and other things on how to anticipate it and how to respond appropriately. And then quick reference guides. And here again, what do those look like? Well, we also have a participant workbook, clear framework, skills, engaging, etc. Again, these are tools. Thing I love about this training modality is it's not a lot of lecture. It's very experiential learning. People are going to be actively involved. We're only going to be hearing it, but we're also going to be giving and receiving feedback in class and then finding opportunities to take what we learned outside the class. One of the worst travesties is to have learning die in the room. Well, this training will not do that. You will learn it and be able to take it out and apply it again. So super excited about that. Here's a quick learning summary. And again, some of the things that you get is a feedback, a tool, so people can take it. Not only do they have the workshop handout or workbook, they also have this learning summary that they can take back and continue to reference back at their jobs. So that said, here's an example here of a worksheet. Again, you can see here, again, prior to training, make enough copies of it. Again, very simple instructions. But you can take this back, and we use this in the training to role play and get people actively involved in giving and receiving feedback. Eval, pretty straightforward for training. You also have a quick start train the trainer module, which again, you would work with someone like me if you decided, or not if, but when you buy this training, you would work with me maybe for an hour before. We'd get you up to speed, trainer to trainer. I could answer any questions you have, talk about the audience, the demographics, where you want to get people, how much time you have, virtual, hybrid, remote, whatever. We put a plan together to help you succeed. Certainly, subscription-based product. You can see here over 90 customizable soft skill training programs, this among many. It's really, really user-friendly. Whether you're a trainer or not, does not matter. You can certainly get up to speed really, really quick. Access to the 300 plus hours of training on leadership, team building, again, amongst other things, this course and others. And again, I'm super excited. So why I recommend, folks, is pretty straightforward. And again, I don't want to be redundant, but everything that I have found in my career improves when you have great feedback. Performance goes up, you develop leaders, collaboration, culture, and it affects outcomes. And the data is really, really demonstrative right now. We got 5 generations in the workforce. Yes, we do. And we're clamoring for feedback. Feedback should not be to you, it should be for you, and it should be less art and more science. And this product gives you tools and resources on how to give and receive feedback. So next steps, certainly browse the collection. if you're excited, which I'm going to presume that maybe you are, choose your license, get in touch, start the training, schedule the training. And we're still early here in 2025, so there's an opportunity to schedule it. And if you have questions in the interim, please get in touch with us. And I'll be quiet here because I promised you 30 minutes, and I'm right on the dot. And if you have any questions, right in the questions box, I'm happy to answer.
Great. Yes. So if you do have questions, we can answer those for you today. We can also, you can contact us here at support at HRDQ.com or that 800 number on this screen. We'll also follow up with you via email with all the information. Also, make sure that you download those handouts if you have yet to do so today. There are some samples in there for you to view, so you can check those out. And we have a question here. Let's see. Let me pull this up here. Can the results be easily integrated into an organization's existing leadership development program?
The answer would be absolutely yes. This is not some big schema or frame that you need an interpreter to implement. I'd say this is very user friendly and operational. And I think I touched it on just a little bit. It uses plain spoken English. This is built for practitioners. This is built for workplaces that actually, again, normal talk. It's not a bunch of acronyms and vernacular business school speak. You can absolutely take what you're doing now and implement this and use it to amplify or being adjacent to some of the things you're doing now. Again, if you're looking for tools and resources on how to operationalize it, this is what you need. Again, one of the biases I have, there's a lot of things out there, but they don't give you tools and resources on how to operationalize it. They just give you information. And you heard me say it earlier before, information is rarely transformation. This particular training product, takes the information and puts it in context and gives you some tools on how to actually change behavior.
Great. And if there are additional questions, we will be sure to follow up with you via email so you can chat those in, and we'll make sure to get back with you on that. And we had a great audience today. Thank you all for participating in our webinar today. And Devin, thank you for sharing all the information on the Constructive Criticism reproducible training library product.
Thank you so much for having me.
Happy training, everyone.